Hey there, it's Kari at StudioR12 Stencils, and today we're going to show you how to use an all-over pattern to make a border for your project. So today we're showing you how to use an all-over pattern stencil just to make a frame on your project. So I have done this before on a really funny kitchen project. I will make sure to share the link, but today I'm going to show you a different way to do it than the way we've done it before. So we have multiple sizes of our stencils, which is one thing that sets us apart from a lot of other stencil companies, because not only do we have 7,000 designs, most of them have several sizes. And with our designs, as our stencil size grows, so does the pattern. So our 9-inch has a smaller, tighter pattern than our 15-inch, and then our 18-inch has an even bigger pattern. So that's something to keep in mind when you are painting these projects, to get the different sizes if you really love a pattern, because sometimes you might want a tighter pattern and sometimes you might want a larger one. I do love how small the 9 by 9-inch pattern is here. However, for ease, I am going to go with the 15-inch pattern that is the same size as my surface. Now, one thing I could do, because this stencil has a border all the way around it, so I could go ahead and do the 18-inch and let the pattern fall off the sides. However, I think I want to stick with the 15-inch to show you how that would work on this. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure there's nothing on my board. I just did one layer of the 5. Today I want my project to be really nice and light and dusty. I'm going to go ahead and tape my stencil on. We like to tape in 2 corners just to make sure that our stencil is not wiggling on us when we're painting, especially when we're doing a pattern. The last thing you want is to have to reline up a pattern. It is the worst. Okay, you ready to see how we're going to do this? We are going to use our main stencil as a mask for this project. So before I put it on though, I am going to use the Stick and Restick on the back of it, because since it's going to be our mask, I really want to make sure that these corners stay down so we don't run the risk of bleeding under. So let's show how to put Stick and Restick on the back of a stencil. We have our Alien Stick and Restick. We are going to put it on our palette paper, and then we are going to use, you can use a jumbo dauber, you can use an ink sweeper, either one of those will work great. We're going to come to our palette, grab some on, then I like to just kind of offload a little bit on the palette so it's not really goopy. I am going to put a paper towel underneath of it so I don't get Stick and Restick all over my table. And then I'm going to go all the way around the edges here. You could use the Stick and Restick all over your stencil if you wished. I'm really just concerned about the edges and making sure they stick down. So I am just going to do the edges here. I'm going to go in a little bit, kind of just what the width of my jumbo dauber is, just to make sure I get it nice and sticky, that it stays down, and then I don't have to worry about it lifting while I'm trying to use the stencil as a mask. All right, so how can you tell if you got the Stick and Restick where you want it? You might not be able to see it on the camera, but to the eye, you can see that there is a little bit of a texture on the stencil. And then to determine if it is ready to use or not, we should be able to pick up the stencil with our hand and let it stick to our fingers. So we put a little bit of a timer on because we wanted to see how long it actually took for the Stick and Restick to be ready, and it was only a couple of minutes, which is nice. You don't have to wait a long time. You can put your Stick and Restick on, go grab a drink of coffee, and come back, and it lifts, it sticks to the fingers, so we are good to go, and we are ready to paint our border. Now, we want this in the very center of our project, so I'm going to use my T-square make a little room here. Once you are done with your jumbo dauber, you will want to make sure you put it in the water. You can use the same jumbo dauber or ink sweeper for your stick and restick that you do with your paint. You just want to make sure that you wash them out thoroughly. For a while we were separating them and using one for stick and restick only, and then I think we accidentally used the wrong one and realized it wasn't an issue. So we like to put a brush, the back end of a brush, in where you put your fingers, and then dunk it in the water just to make sure it's completely submerged. And then we will clean it out when we are done, and we just squish it, run it under the water and squish it out. Do not use soap on any of your foamies, or you'll have soapy projects for the rest of your life. Okay, so we have a 15-inch surface, a 9-inch stencil. Steve did the math, and we should have 3 inches all the way around. So thank you to Steve for that. So I have my stencil lined up where I want it to be on the left and right side. I'm going to use a Sharpie and make a little mark here. There's a bit of space behind the stencil where they layer, so I know exactly where to put that. But I also need to check here. So we're a little bit off on our up and down. So I'm gonna move this up. I'm gonna keep it where it was so I can follow that line along the right side. And we're about perfect. So now we are going to stick this down and we are ready to paint. So now we are using a stencil as a mask, and I am super excited about it because all of our stencils are laser cut. So now we have complete straight lines. The stencil wasn't going to move because we had used the stick and restick, and I'm excited to show you how this works. We are going to grab number 27, which is white. You can get on StudioR12.com and get our paint color guide. We have been asked for years and years and years and years what paint we use. We use Sherwin-Williams house paint. We love deco art, but we paint in bulk, and we need to buy our paint in bulk. So we started trying some house paint, and it has worked really great. So with our paint color guide, you can see when I say color 5, you can go to the paint color guide and it will tell you the Sherwin-Williams color and a similar deco art color. And it also gives you a hex code if you are trying to match that same color online. Since we are painting a very large area, I am using our new StudioR12 Jumbo Dome Brush. So we love our dome brushes. This is the largest size that comes in our set. It's a 5/8 inch, and our jumbo dome is 1 inch. So it is almost twice the size as our biggest purple blue brush, and it really helps cover a lot of area very quickly. So we go into our paint, we come to our paper towel and offload. You can swirl, you can wipe back and forth. 10 to 15 times, you will kind of get a grasp of it. Patty, in a video the other day, said, sometimes I say 5, sometimes I say 15. You really just have to kind of get a feel for how heavy-handed you are and how much paint you get on it. So that's personal preference. But when you come to your project, you want it to be light and dusty, and you don't want to be able to see swirl marks. So if you can see swirl marks, then you have too much paint on your brush. And so now we are just going along, and our stencil mask is doing a wonderful job of masking for us so that we are going to have a border with this Paisley stencil. And I'm just lightly dusting all the way around. With just one application of the paint, you can see that I have about 1/4 of it done. I am going to go back into my paint. I could probably get a little more, however, I want it to be even all the way around, and we're only doing a light and dusty layer. If you're doing multiple layers, then you can kind of go as long as you can with your brush and just start applying more pressure. But since we're only doing 1 layer, I want to make sure that it's pretty even all the way around. All right. Our border's done. It was so fast, and I'm so excited to show you how it looks. And we're gonna peel this back, and voila, we have a perfect Paisley pattern frame, and all we did was lay our stencils. How cool is that? So I want to tell you that Steve and I are like completely geeking out about how good this looks in person, but also on camera, that when you try new techniques, you have an idea in mind of how it might work, but when it actually works exactly how you want it, it makes us completely giddy. So I told you that I did the 15-inch because I just wanted it to fit right on here. You could use the smaller pattern and then have a lot tighter of a paisley on it, or you could use the bigger pattern and have it go all the way to the edge. I think with this, it looks perfect with a little bit of the frame around it, just because it kind of gives us multiple frames. You have a frame around the edge, a frame in the middle. So let's show you what else you could do with this. So this is where our stencil is gonna go. It's going to go right back in the middle. I already have a frame on my project from where we did our frame. So then we'll just come back in here, the stick and restick is on, and then we're ready to paint. I am going to paint a majority of this off camera because it is just a stencil basics. We're not doing anything crazy. However, keep in mind that since we are painting on a dark background, that you will want to do an undercoat. So I'm going to use my same dome brush that I used for my white in a really light gray. And then I am going to go over my entire project here with the light gray. Now I am using the stick and restick on the back of the stencil. You could also tape it down for good measure, but this gray is just going to really help make those colors pop off of the back of your project. One thing about using the light gray though, is that it might give a little bit of a different look compared to the light and dusty. We're gonna do a light and dusty gray, but then might have to do a couple of coats of our colors to cover up the gray. So I'll show you what that looks like here in a few. Now, one thing you do want to make sure that you have before you start painting for fall are the StudioR12 Multimaskers. We could do this, and we have done this in the past, by using tape and putting tape in all kinds of different places, and we were tired of doing that. So we had one of our designers create the Multimasker, which is this fun, wonky guy made out of Mylar. It has a straight edge, it has a lot of different shapes. If you have to paint some dots or circles or squares or jagged edges, you can just use it and move it along your project so that you don't do what we like to call ghosting. We want this to be brown, and it's a really tight into our orange area. And so we want to make sure that we're not getting paint where we don't want it. And then you can kind of just move this around until you get the exact shape. So we have a little piece of pumpkin here that has leaves and the stem around it. So we just move that Multimasker around until the part of the pumpkin that we want is the only thing we see. And easy peasy, it's clean lines, and it really just makes painting small, intricate details much easier than taping off. You can also put two Multimaskers together. So in this instance, we have a little bit of pumpkin, a little bit of leaf, a little bit of stem, teeny tiny spaces. So if I put two of my Multimaskers together, I can do a double mask on the top and then just keep that really clean so we don't have to worry about fixing the ghosting later. Sometimes when you're painting, the ghosting might not matter if you're going to paint a dark color over top of it, but sometimes you can run into some issues if your colors don't mesh well. Are you ready for the reveal? We have a beautiful framed, nice and dusty pumpkin. We have a couple little pieces of paint on the background here. You can just scratch them off, or you can use a little bit of a sandpaper. I ended up doing the words in white. They are a little bit bolder because I did use that gray undertone. So the words were number 27. The gray we used was a 23. The orange for the pumpkins was a 9. And then the green was a 43, and the brown is an 84. So it's a really nice combo of fall colors that are also still neutral and light. Now, one more thing that you could add on to this is that you could get some of our stripe stencils and you could go right across the top here, and you could add even a thicker border here to add another frame. We have lots of different thicknesses, thinnesses, sizes. I selected this one. This is STCL 7056_4. The reason that I picked this one to show you is because it would make a stripe throughout our whole open area so that you don't have to move your stencil in to continue on with that stripe. So that is just one more thing that you could do to finish it. I would recommend using the Stick and Restick on the back of this. And when you're painting stripes, we like to paint them more of like, kind of like a coloring rather than a swirl, because when you swirl, your brush can get stuck underneath the stencil. So just do an up and down motion in the same direction as the stripe, and then you could have an additional frame. You could even add a frame to the very edge here around the outside, and then have lots of layers of frames to really draw your eye to the center of your project. If you love this project and want to see more fun and creative ways to use stencils for decor around your home, be sure to subscribe to StudioR12 Stencils, ring the bell so you'll be notified anytime that we add new videos or go live.